Hi, I'm Joe Plecker, and welcome to the Lesson Tee. Today, we're talking about hybrids. Hybrids are an essential piece of equipment to your golf bag. The reason why is that low irons are tough to hit, and I've got in my hand a 3-iron and a 3 hybrid. The iron, it's very slim. You can tell the sole plate of the golf club, there's not much mass behind the club face. With the hybrid, however, from the front of the face to the back of the club, much wider, and it provides more mass. It's like getting more punch. So the more mass we put behind the club face, the stronger the ball can leave the club head. Another difference here is that the iron has a flat face. The hybrid, it's curved, it's rounded, much like a wood is in your bag. So looking at the difference between the two, the hybrid head has many more wood properties and is much more like your fairway play. But the difference is the swing. Now, if we had to say the biggest difference between the swing for a hybrid is that it's not like a fairway wood. I don't want it forward in your stance, but a little closer to the center. The reason why is we need to hit down on the hybrid, and you've got to show it to the golf ball with your hands in front at impact. I see a lot of players struggle with the hybrid. They like to play it too far forward in their stance, more off of their left side, and this really makes it difficult for them to hit down on the golf ball. Play your hybrid just as you would a 6-iron in your stance, slightly forward of center with your hands in front of it. What you're going to find is it's easier to hit down on the golf ball with your hands in front, and that makes the hybrid fly true and far every time. So a hybrid has wood-like qualities on the club head, but iron-like qualities for when we strike it. Play it a little forward of center with your hands in front, return there at impact, and you're going to have a great hybrid game, I promise.
I'm Michael Breed, host of the Golf Fix. We love getting your questions, so keep them coming. This question is coming to us from David. I seem to do well on the practice green and driving range, but I have trouble bringing it to the course. Any suggestions? Yeah, David, you know what? You are not alone. There are a lot of people that stand in this line of, I can really hit the ball well on the practice tee, but when I go to the golf course, it just doesn't get there. One of the reasons why that doesn't happen, and maybe the reason for you why it doesn't happen, is because you're not practicing with a purpose. In other words, when you go out onto the practice tee and you start hitting shots, when you hit a bad one, you just bring in another one and hit it until you feel good. What I want you to do is I want you to practice with a purpose. I want every golf ball, when you're out there on the practice tee, to have a meaning. So what I want you to do is I want you to get back here like you're on the golf course, and let's have a little deal. Let's say if I don't hit this ball into this target area that we have here, I'm going to do 5 push-ups, okay? So that means I'm going to focus. I'm going to stand up here, make my practice swing, good balance, pick my target, and hit my shot. Well, I'm not going to wait around to find out if we're doing push-ups, but you know what, David? Practice with a purpose, and that's going to help your game. Now, the other thing that's going to help your game, watch me, Michael Breed, on the Golf Fix, Monday nights, 7 o'clock. All we do is try to help you play better golf. So you got to watch us. Come on, watch us. You got to watch us. Watch us. Watch us.
Thanks for joining me on Golf Channel Academy. I'm your coach, Mark Polich. Today we're going to talk about understanding your miss. We all hit bad shots. We're not robots, we're humans. But understanding your miss is real important so you can apply the right fix. One of the common things I see is people will hit a shot that will go dead right, maybe at a 45-degree angle, and they incorrectly assume that the club face was wide open at impact. The very next shot they'll hit, because they assume the club face was open, they will hit a shot that's like this, and that ball will go way left. suddenly they're on the range hitting right, left, getting really frustrated. Now, in this case, the real reason that they hit that ball to the right is they hit the ball on the hosel. And when they hit it on the hosel, it goes directly right. It's not an issue of an open club face. So if you do that, on the way down, what you need to do is you need to have your arms come a little bit closer to your body. And if you do, you'll hit it on the center of the club face. It's going to look like this. So remember, when you're struggling with a shot, understand your miss, apply the right solution to the problem.
Maria Palazola with mygolfinstructor.com, and today I've got a question submitted by Pat. Pat's question is, what is the correct ball position for hitting hybrids and fairway woods? So I'm here today with my good friend, PGA teaching professional Dennis Biedenstein. So Dennis, how would you answer Pat's question on the correct ball position for hybrids and fairway woods?
Be happy to. What we look for with the hybrids, fairway woods, even the driver, we tend to like to have the golf ball a little bit further up in our stance. You know, we want to make sure we try to get more on an upswing with the shot, okay? So an iron is basically designed to be the bottom of the golf swing, slightly past the golf ball, descending blow into the golf ball. Fairway woods, hybrids, and the driver, we tend to hit a little more on the upswing. So ball position is very, very important for consistent contact, the proper ball flight as we go. We've got a little T-square down here on the ground to help us out. What we like to see is we get a little bit wider with our stance with the fairway woods, hybrids, and driver, because the extra length, we need a little more balance, a little more stable position, help us with the speed and the weight of this golf club. As you can see now, we've got the golf ball about the width of a club head inside of our front heel, okay? And from there, as we get wider with the back foot, it's going to allow us to move our center slightly behind the golf ball. So as we come into it, we can see a little more on the upswing as opposed to that descending blow as we move past the golf ball. So the ball position is very important to us, a little front of center. Right,
and that club head width, that's a great tip there. Okay, Dennis, so can you hit one for us and show us how effective getting the correct ball position with these clubs can be?
Absolutely. So as I take my address position again, club head inside my left heel for a right-handed player. You notice my center is now moved slightly behind the golf ball, and from here, we're going to work on a nice smooth backswing, a good transition through the hit.
So I'd like to give a big thanks to my good friend, Dennis Biedenstein, PGA teaching professional, for being with us here today on mygolfinstructor.com. And if you have a question, feel free to submit it in the Ask Maria section on mygolfinstructor.com.
That we want to talk about on how we're going to be able to create that perfect impact position with the trail arm being underneath the lead arm being straight, and the trail arm being bent. Now I see a lot of people will come through and they can get the trail arm bent, but the lead arm gets bent and it's on top because you're pulling that in. So we need to make sure that we understand how to create all facets of this motion. The first thing that you're going to do is you're just going to do some one-arm lead arm swings. Now these will be very clumsy for you at the start. And the reason why is, for the most part, when you start swinging with your lead arm, that is that's the arm that you don't quite have the agility or the eye-hand coordination as you do with the trail arm, right? So this is a really good drill to get you to have a feel of how that lead arm is going to work. And the reason why I love this drill so much is because, I mean, rarely, 99% of the time, everybody is keeping this arm straight. Nobody is going to take this and pick this up and go that way. That takes a lot of strength in the elbows and particularly in the forearms. When you start to swing this back with one arm and swing back through, what you're going to start to get is you're going to start to get a real flow or fluidity to that motion, and you're going to feel that lead arm staying straight there, okay? Now, we want to be able to make sure that we get bend in this trail arm. Now, let me do this first, actually. I'm going to take an alignment stick, and I'm going to put that right there like that. Now, this is going to be our target line. And Rudd, if you can give me an overhead shot here, what I want you to do is I want you to focus on taking your, and no club when you do this first. What you're going to do with this T drill is you're going to make a backswing and you're going to feel that trail arm bend, and then all I want you to do is rotate that body down so that you get your forearm dead parallel to this alignment stick in the center of your body, just like that. And when you look down there, what I want you to see is I want you to see bend there. Now, you won't get there at impact, but I want you to feel how your upper body is going to work in carrying that bent trail arm into the strike, just like that. That is a wonderful drill for you to understand how to let this body bring this trail arm, this bent trail arm down into the strike. Another great drill for you is going to be throwing a ball. So we start with a little Nerf football here, and I'm just going to pick a spot out there, and as I go through to throw that to that spot there, I'm going to have a bent arm until I release it. The release is going to happen when that arm kind of straightens out. So what you're going to do is just pick a spot out there. I'm just going to go at the end of the mat, and I'm just going to throw that down in that fashion there. If you don't have one of those, we take just a ball, same thing, and just throw it out there. If you straighten the arm too soon, and do this with a golf ball, if you straighten it too soon, you're going to throw it back here. That golf ball, that ball, whatever is in your trail hand, that's going to leave your hand when that straightens out, okay? A great drill for you to understand how to keep that bend in that elbow. Now, the last part of this is the under part. So, an alignment stick, and what you're going to do is you're going to make a backswing, and this, by the way, is a great drill to help you get coiled back there, by the way. But when you come back through, I want you to feel like you're letting this trail arm get underneath the lead arm. And by having the lead arm so high, you're going to get a feel of what that feels like. You're going to see how this shoulder's going to go up, this shoulder's going to rotate down and forward, and you're going to get this sense that this trail hand is moving underneath the lead. Those are the drills that you're going to perform. Now, what are you going to think about when you do all this? Here's the thought that I have. The thought that I have is that when I'm coming through here, I'm getting a body rotation either through the sternum, right in the center where the buttons of my shirt are, or through my trail shoulder, and I'm getting the sense that my trail elbow is straightening on that side of my body, not on this side of the body. So when I make my practice swing, I feel the elbow get bent here, rotate the body, and then push that trail arm out in that fashion, just like throwing that ball. So we do that. And what you'll notice when you do this, by the way, is the golf club will make a noise. It makes a little whoosh sound. And when that elbow straightens, that's when the whoosh sound happens. And that's going to be hanging out over here. Definitely on the forward side of the body. So I've done that a couple of times. Now, the first time you do this, I want you to go slowly, just like when you were learning to drive the car. Don't go fast. Really good strike there. It's going to feel like you're striking the ball a little bit late.
Jesse Ray says fairway woods. I can't hit them off the fairway or high enough.
Well, almost certainly what we're dealing with there is someone who's hitting the ball off the bottom of the club. Simple tip here. something I will do a lot, I did as a kid growing up. Take a practice swing just very slightly to the side of the ball. We have a target line, and I like people to take a practice swing about 6 inches to the side of that target line. I've put one of these little plastic tees here, and I would say make sure you hit the ground. In this case, I'm going to hit the tee to make it obvious. But if you hit the ground, you're going to get the ball high enough on the club face to get up in the air. So practice swings, I mean, people think of sweeping fairway woods. It's actually better if you take a tiny little divot. So I'm going to be mindful here as I hit this one, sir, of making sure I get contact with the ground. Which I did there, and that got that up in the air and pretty much out towards my...
Hi, Mark Bereza from the Annika Academy, and I want to talk to you a bit about a couple things that have to do with your stance and also ball position. So first thing we're going to do is talk about width of stance. How far do I get my feet apart? It's a question that we often get. Real simple way to do it. We actually call it the Charlie Chaplin. You'll see why in a second. If I put my feet together, touching, it's really important that they're touching there. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and swing my feet out, almost about as wide as I can go. Then from there, what I'm going to do is go up on my toes, swing my heels out. All right, I've got about a 15-degree angle out from each one of my feet for good balance. And if the ball position's right in the middle of my stance now, I've got a perfect width for about an 8-iron on down. But that's not always going to be the case with the width of stance. So how do we find different widths for different clubs, especially the longer clubs? Well, I'm going to use a couple sticks here, and I'm going to show you how that works. This portion is going to be called the T-bone, and you'll see why here. I just lay the clubs down, or the sticks down in a T. And if I get that same width that I worked on with an 8-iron, swing my heels up to my heels here, up on my toes. All right, so I've got that ball position in the center. That'd be great for an 8-iron on down to my wedges. But if I get that longer club, like a 3-wood I'm holding here, all I want to do is just start to move my right foot back. You know, in this case, I'll go back about 2-3 inches, widen that stance. And you can see now the ball position's moved a little bit further up in my stance there. All right, and then for a driver, we're going to go even more to get that just inside the heel. So there's 2 tricks there for you to work on, 2 great ways to find your width of stance. You can put your feet together, open your toes, up on your toes. There we got our ball position for an 8-iron or below, and then move that right foot back to get your width for the longer clubs. That should help you figure out where to put that ball position, hit better shots. Good luck.
Do this drill, it is going to be incredibly helpful. I'm going to use my shadow to help you play much better golf. So let me tell you what I've set up here. Obviously, I've got the sun right behind me. And it's really important that you set up to this drill properly. How would you know if the sun is right behind you? It's very simple. You lift the club up, put it in front of your body, and you can see in the shadow that club almost looks like I've got an aerial coming out of the top of my head. If you're not at the proper angle, you will see here that the club doesn't appear to be coming out of the top of your head. So number one, the club's got to be right out of the top of your head, which means the sun is directly behind me. Now you can see I've put down 2 golf balls and a stick. We're going to call this one the lead hip golf ball, the lead hip ball. This one's going to be the trail hip ball. And this one's going to be a stick, a line, something I need to keep my head behind. So let me get in here. What actually prompted me to do this was doing a bit of research a few years ago. I found that in the Second World War, Ben Hogan, the great Ben Hogan, would actually go out and practice at night using the moon to see his shadow. Well, I'm crazy, but I'm not quite that crazy. So I thought, well, the shadow, we could all do that, couldn't we, as long as we've got a bit of sun. So I'm going to set up here, and you can see as I set up, the shadow of my left ear is just behind that stick. And the lead hip golf ball has no sun on it. Sorry, the lead hip golf ball has sun on it, so sorry. And the trail hip golf ball has sun on it. Now, here's what I'd want in the backswing. As I swing back, I want the shadow of my head to stay fairly still. and I want the trail hip golf ball to get covered with my shadow. That means I've really loaded, sat into my trail hip, very good for power. Now this is an enormous thing and most people don't get it. Watch the shadow carefully, please. My lead hip will shift and cover that front hip ball by a good amount. But do you see how my head stays behind the line? Do you see that, how my head's staying behind the line? So the look at impact would be head still behind the line, lead hip has covered the lead hip ball, big gap with the trail hip, and as I keep going through, I'm turning, I want the shadow of my left hip to disappear. Now that would be a fantastic drill to do whether you hit balls or not. So a bit more in speed now, and I'm actually going to be looking at my shadow. Definitely don't want the head moving forwards. I really hate that. Definitely don't want the hip staying in the middle. I really hate that. So here we go, properly. Covering the trail hip ball, so I'm leading into the trail leg. Having some shift, there is shift, but I'm not shifting the upper body. You can see that with the shadow. Lower body shift, yes. Upper body shift, no. Turning through, keeping the head behind the ball, left shoulder disappearing, head's back, and then up.
Hey fans, I'm here to answer your questions about the golf swing. Let's do this! This is Ask Reed, presented by FootJoy. Thanks for submitting your question this past week. And you know whose question we took? Clifford. Clifford asked this: when should the hips start turning in the backswing? And when should the backswing end or the downswing start? Clifford, a very interesting question. This is obviously something that many people struggle with. They don't know exactly what starts when. Here's what I would tell you. I want in the backswing for the shoulders to turn the hips. And in the downswing, I want the hips to turn the shoulders. That's sort of as a rule. So what I want you to do is, I want you to you can practice this at home. Just start to turn your shoulders and see when naturally your hips are going to go. It's not going to be a great amount of time. It's probably about maybe a half a foot to a foot. So you get here like this. You start to turn, then the hips are going to start to go. When they get up to the top, now the hips are going to start to go. And I like to feel the knee key the hips. So when I start in the downswing, I want to feel that lead knee bowing out, and then the hips are going to go, and then the shoulders are going to go. So it goes like this. Shoulders, hips, knee, hips, shoulders. Shoulders, turn the hips, and then knee, hips, shoulders. And then get into here and get that same feeling. Don't go fast, Clifford. In fact, none of you don't go fast. Give this a little bit of time. Shoulders, hips, knees, hips, shoulders. And you get into that rhythm of what this is all about. Let me try one more. See if we can get this in the bucket for my good friend Anthony back there, who I know is just rooting for this thing to get into that basket. So here we go. Good strike. Anthony! Anthony! Oh, I think I hit it too far. Yep, I hit it too far. You know what? Sun's out, guns out. Hey, listen, thanks for joining us for this edition of Ask Reed, presented by FootJoy.
Okay, we've all hit severe pulls off the tee. As a right-handed golfer, our tendency is to aim too far right. We tend to have the tendency of pulling a club across our body, but the problem is through the backswing. We have a tendency of getting the shoulders attuned too early, pulling the club too much around to the inside, and then lift. From this position, we're not able to create a proper turn, so the problem is we have a tendency of pulling the club across our body, creating a pulled tee shot to the left. So the big deal we want to do is we get set, correcting the alignment, and allowing our arms to work across our chest so we get a proper turn or coil to the top. So to make the correction from a pull shot, first areas would be the aim and alignment, and work on getting our arm across the chest so we're not making that early turn and lift. So that will help you to eliminate the pull shot off the tee.
I'm Michael Breed. regardless of the time of year, whether it's inclement or it's cold, what I want you to do is perfect your putting routine. We did a segment a number of years ago. I want to say it was 5 or 6 years ago on Tiger Woods. We put a stop clock on his putting routine, and he hit the ball between 14 and 17 seconds every single time. And the only reason why the time varied was the length of the putt. If it was a shorter putt, it took a little less time. But what I can tell you is this, that one of the most important things in making putts is the rhythm of your putting stroke. And that rhythm in the putting stroke is a direct result of having and doing the exact same thing in your routine. So what do I mean by that? In my routine, what I'll do is I'm gonna hold the club, I'm gonna posture myself to the ground, and then I'm gonna take one practice putting stroke looking down, and then a second practice putting stroke looking at the target. Then when I come into the ball, I'm gonna go left foot, right foot, and then I put the putter head in. I look once, I look twice, and then I move the putter. Now, what I can tell you is that's the routine that works for me. What you have to do is find the routine that works for you. And as you develop this routine, you will develop a rhythm. So many times people say, I don't know what starts the putter back. Well, it has to be almost an unconscious or subconscious move that's just going to move this thing in the right direction. So what I want you to do is develop a routine. In here, you're going to go 1, 2, left foot, right foot, putter head in, look down twice, and then go. Maybe for you, you're looking down once. Maybe for you, you're looking down twice. Whatever it is, do the exact same thing every single time. And as you develop that routine and you develop that timing, you'll develop the smoothness of a great tempoed putting stroke, and you're going to make a lot more putts. And the other thing that you can do to make more putts and hit great shots is watch the Golf Fix every Monday. I'm Michael Breed, the host. We're here helping you improve your game one tip at a time.
So you're hitting a big hook off the tee. First of all, that's a high-class problem. You've got a lot of good things happening in your golf swing. The club's coming from a good path onto the golf ball. It's coming from the inside. What's happening, though, is you've got the club face pointing left of your target or left of your path. So the club face is closed to the path. A couple of quick things you can check. If you've got the ball position back too far in your stance, now you're catching it even earlier in the arc, making it go to the right even further. So move the ball forward a little bit. Put the ball up in your stance so the tee is a little higher, gives it a chance to hit on the upswing. That will minimize the hook. And from a feel perspective, if you want a quick drill to fix it, try and get the sensation the club face is facing the sky more as you go through the golf ball. That'll kind of delay the rotation of the club face, get the path on the face matching better for you.
I'm Martin Hall, you're watching Extra Credit. Dead, solid contact. How to hit it right in the middle. Well, actually, if you don't hit it in the middle, there's only 4 mishits. It's either too much off the toe, too much off the heel, too much off the bottom, or too much off the top. So one drill to fix each of those. Let's deal with the nasty, the shank, the German tank, as we used to call it in England. The shank. What's happened there? Well, you've overreached on the downswing. As good a drill as I know to stop the shank is just to practice very near to a 2x4, and I mean very near. Now, as long as you put the ball at the front of the 2x4 and you give yourself just a tiny bit of margin, perhaps 1/4 of an inch between the toe of the club and the ball, you should be able to hit the ball without hitting the 2x4. Don't put it back here, because if you hit the 2x4, it will really hurt back there. But put it up here. If you're shanking, you're probably going to move the wood too much. So that's a great drill to stop the shank, to stop the heel shot. What about the evil brother of the heel shot? Well, that would be the toe shot. And a lot of times the toe shot's going to occur when people sort of lift the upper body away from the ball, and of course then that stretches everything away from the ball and you can't reach it. One of my favorites for that is when you finish your swing. As a good finish thought, to avoid this upper body lift away, it's what I call lay your head on a pillow. When I finish the swing, I want to lay my head, as it were, on a pillow. That's going to keep me in my golf posture through the swing. Luke Donald would be a magnificent example of that. So I'm going to swing and lay my head on a pillow. At the finish, I lay the head on the pillow. Very difficult to hit it off the toe if you do that. You don't hit it in the heel, you don't hit it off the toe. Maybe you hit it fat. A very simple drill to hit it, to correct that fat hitting is this. Put the ball on a very high tee, take a mid-iron, I've got a 6 here. Difficult to do, but see if you can clip the ball off that tee without knocking the tee out of the ground. Now that's not easy to do. If you just clip it there like I did, it's not so bad. The point would be you're not going to go right underneath it. Great sort of developed skill drill, that one. And finally, that leaves us with the thin. And the thin shot usually is when the club's coming up too quickly. Well, it doesn't get much simpler than this, and it really doesn't get much better than this. Put a tee a couple of inches in front of the ball, try and hit the ball, and make sure you move the tee. Because my research would say, my experience would say, if I manage to hit that ball and hit that tee, there's no way that I can hit the ball thin. So 4 drills for getting rid of the 4 evil mishits. Thanks for joining us on golfchannel.com for the best in golf instruction. For more tips like these, tune into School of Golf every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern.
So you're missing the sweet spot on your irons. We have to first figure out where are you missing the sweet spot on the irons. You can tell from the hit it doesn't feel good. Well, let's get a little more information. So very easy. Take a Sharpie, put a vertical line on the golf ball, and then put the golf ball towards you. So now you're going to hit a shot, and you're going to figure out where that mark is on the club face. So for most people, what I find, you tend to hit too much towards the toe. So something is shortening the radius. Find out where you're hitting it in the face. If it is towards the toe, try and get where you feel some more extension in the downswing. And what I mean by that is when you're swinging the golf club, you've turned away from the golf ball, you've got your shoulder back behind you, your right arm's folded. If you come back down and you don't straighten your right arm, now obviously your hands are going to be high and that radius is much shorter. So try and hit a few shots. You've got the line on the golf ball, the ball's facing you or the line's facing the club face. And now you're going to try and hit shots easy at first, soft shoulders and extension downwards. If you're doing that well, add a little bit more speed in, but see where the club face is hitting the golf ball to begin with. That's really important to figure out.
I'm Martin Hall, you're watching School of Golf. Extra credit. We're talking about how to stick your approach, how to nestle it right up there near to the flagstick. Now, you have to hit it the right distance, you have to hit it in the right direction. We're going to cover both of those in this extra credit. To hit it the right distance, you've got to hit it solid. You've got to hit it in the middle of the club. No wobbling around in the backswing. One of my favourite drills that I use such a lot to stop people wobbling around is take a club that you don't use very much, my 3-iron, place it under the outside of your right foot so that when you set up to the ball, you can definitely feel the weight is certainly on the inside of the right foot. Now as you swing up, keep the weight there. You'll definitely be able to feel if there's any floating around or wobbling that would make the contact difficult. So here we go, keeping the weight somewhat on the inside of the right foot. I'm winding up, not wobbling around, and then I'm going to sort of hit that one out there. Now that one didn't quite go straight, and there would be a reason for that. Either something was wrong with the path of the swing or something was wrong with the club face. I'm going to talk about the path of the swing first, and we're going to deal with a left arm 45 and a right arm 45. Let me show you exactly what I mean by that. We've got a target line in golf, and on the assumption we're trying to hit one fairly straight, to keep the swing going in the right direction, when I finish my backswing, it should appear to me that my left arm is about 45 degrees to the target line. That's why I put this stick down here. You could use a club. Actually, you can even hit balls if you make a big enough gate here. But when I finish my backswing, for my plane to be such that the ball could go straight, at the end of my backswing, to me, my left arm looks about parallel to that stick on the ground, left arm 45.
if I want my ball or my swing to be straight when I hit it, my right arm better be 45 on the way through. It sounds like it would work to swing straight back and straight through, but it just doesn't. So left arm 45, right arm 45 will keep you swinging about in the right direction. Now here's a drill that you probably should do just about every time you go to the golf course. Getting the club face square at impact, that's to say looking in the right direction, is certainly tricky. But there is a checkpoint. I call it the 3 o'clock stop. If you think of a big clock face, the club's now at 6, 5, 4, 3. It's one of my favorites. You might have heard it before, but it never hurts to hear it again, and it certainly never hurts to do it, by the way. Hit shots where you go to 3 o'clock stop. You just take it up, you go to about 3 o'clock stop and you check it, and you see that face is about up and down, toe in the air is square. And if you do those, if you hit it solid, if you swing in the right direction, left arm 45, right arm 45, and you give it about that 3 o'clock stop, just going to stop at 3 o'clock right here, going to stop at about 3 o'clock, you've got a good chance of getting that club face square and getting it online. Learn to stick that approach. Thanks for joining us on golfchannel.com for the best in golf instruction.
Thanks for joining us on Golf Channel Academy. I'm Holly Saunders alongside your teacher, Martin Hall. And here at Golf Channel, July is Around the Green month. And Martin, give us some short game secrets the pros know that most amateurs don't know.
Well, it's very interesting. With new technology, we can measure stuff we could never measure before. We always thought it, but now we know this. The best short game players have a different sequence to their motion than the best long game players. And in fact, there are really two sequences. I mean, anybody who's watched our show School of Golf would know with a driver, when you're trying to actually lash it, lay the lash on the ball, it would be the hips go, and then the shoulders go, then the arms go, and last of all, like just crazy, the club head comes through. That's great for power and bad for precision. So you don't want the sequencing to be that way. In fact, if you just lay your club on the ground, for the short game, this is the best drill I know for sequencing it right. Just put your two hands on your hips like so. I want you to have knees, hips, elbows, shoulders. Everything moves back together and everything moves through together. That actually takes power out of your swing, which is just what you want around the greens. Everything back together, everything through together. You don't want any great separation or coil. You want to uncoil it in a way. I mean, sort of de-stress. Everything back together, through together. A general image would be just like this. If you had a 10-pound medicine ball and we were to just gently just toss it, if you were to just toss a gentle that's it. That's what pitching is. That's what most of the short game shots are. So let's try and hit one about 40, 50 yards here. No great lead with the legs on the downswing, far from it. Everything back together, everything through together. And that gives you a very soft shot, a very high one there, and a very nice one, by the way. But that's how you get to control the ball rather than just pulverize it and mash it out there.
I like it. All right, thanks for joining us on Golf Channel Academy for the best in golf instruction. I'm Holly Saunders, and for some more great tips from your teacher, Martin Hall, tune into School of Golf every Wednesday night with us at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for joining us on Golf Channel Academy. This is School of Golf. I'm Holly Saunders, joined by the Professor Martin Hall, and this week kicked off our July instructional theme of Around the Green, Martin.
Yeah, it did, and certainly you can't score low if you haven't got a good short game. We all know that. And I think at times amateurs actually underestimate just how well the top players get up and down from around the green. I mean, we know they bomb it off the tee. We know they hit a good amount of green, but they don't hit every fairway and they don't hit every green. And even if they did, they don't shoot those 62s by doing that. It's you know, it's the lofted wedges and the putter that does the damage. Now, in our show, I talked about how important it was that people understand getting the bottom of the arc in the right place. I want to go over this one more time When I say one more time, I actually mean 1,000 times,
Right.
because you just can't do. Look, people who don't pitch the ball very well, it starts when they're either getting the bottom too early and the club's on the way up when it hits the ball, or with better players, if you're a bit yippier and you're a 2 handicapper, there's a very good chance you're actually coming down too steeply. Now, in the old days, we were told, the more you put your hands ahead and hit down on the ball, the better you'll be. That's okay if you're one of these players, if you're a scooper, but you really don't necessarily need to do that to be a wonderful player. You need the bottom in the right place. Now, I've got 2 magic words for the short game. Nothing independent. Nothing independent. It's not just hands. It's not just arms, it's not just body pivot, they all have their part to play. You can't play with independent hands, that'll have you coming in too shallow. Holly, set up to the ball. You know, as you know, this is sort of what I do on my day off, this Golf Channel stuff. My real job is teaching golf, and on an ongoing basis I see higher handicap players. They get very independent on the downswing. They actually tend to probably get a bit in, but they get very early with the club head acceleration, and in fact they stay too still with the feet and the knees and the hips. And it's an old wives' tale. People say, well, I know why you missed that one, you move too much. Generally it's that people don't move enough. So what I want you to do first of all is just pop your club on the ground. We're going to play a little bit of what I'd call shadow golf. Cross your hands across your shoulders. This is a 20-30 yard pitch. You move a bit to your right, you move a bit to your left. It's not a full turn because it's not a full shot. You move a bit to your right, you move a bit to your left. You wouldn't think that's happening with good pitches, but it is. If I gave you a sack of potatoes here and said, now just gently toss that sack of potatoes, hold the imaginary sack of potatoes or a medicine ball, move to the right, move to the left. The hands, the wrists, the arms, everything keeps moving in balanced proportion. There's nothing independent. And to a great degree, whatever the angle of the shaft is when you set up, you want the angle of the shaft to be about the same when you get to the ball. So take your setup for me if you would. If that's the angle of your shaft at setup, you want it to be about the same at impact. You sure as heck don't want it to be here at impact where there's a mismatch. And you certainly wouldn't do that because you know that would be detention from the professor here. Go to a darkened room. So everything in balanced proportion. Everything moves away together. Everything moves through together. It feels like gravity alone accelerates it. Pretty good, pretty good. If I had an observation there, I would say that probably your grip pressure was a little tight and changed just a bit. I mean, it's what I do for a living, have done for goodness knows how many years, but just a little more constant with the grip pressure. So constant grip pressure, very good. Very nicely done. So it isn't that you have to be light, you could be firm, but it never changes. And there's no great feeling of trying to accelerate the club. I think that's disastrous. So it's everything back together, everything through together. Let the club have its sort of natural or ordinary acceleration. You'll hit it more solidly and you'll get it close to the hole. And now everybody's happy.
Right. You help me every single time. Every single time.
I try.
Thanks for joining us on Golf Channel Academy. For the very best in golf instruction and for more great tips like these, make sure to watch School of Golf every Wednesday night with us at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
And this is Tiger Woods. I refuse to give in to fear, real or imagined, or to be afraid either consciously or unconsciously of anything or anyone. And he lived that. He embodied that. Doing it again, like Ian Poulter is trying to do, plus he's got the pressure of trying to secure his privileges for the balance of the year, and that had to be on his mind. Jason Duffner did win last year. Graham DeLette has never won. Webb Simpson hadn't won in a while. What's harder? Doing it for the first time or doing it again when you haven't done it for a while?
I got to tell you, the way Wesley Bryan did it, you know, we talk about the confidence of youth. I think it's probably harder to do it that second time when you haven't done it in a while. And I put an asterisk next to that, unless you're someone like Graham DeLette trying to get a monkey off your back. Now, you can connect the dots to Sergio Garcia. I mean, look what a monumental effort it took for Sergio to break through in the majors. It was much like Tom Watson. It was actually a lot like Phil Mickelson. People forget Phil Mickelson was the best player in the world not to win a major for many years. And breaking through whatever that mental barrier is, whether it's your first one or whether it's, you haven't won in a long time trying to close the deal again, it's like the metaphor I use, Gary, is like trying to pull your jeans off over your sneakers when you're a child. The harder you pull, the more you try, the more stuck you get. Now, what Tiger did so beautifully, and who we see this out of more than anyone these days, is Jordan Spieth. What Tiger did so beautifully is he met the moment every time. In other words, when he says, I refuse to give in to fear, real or imagined, he would actively seek it out in his psyche and then challenge it, whether it was swimming, in waters where there were sharks swimming, whether it was, paragliding or free diving. Tiger chased fear as a means to not let it dominate him. And you see that out of Jordan Spieth more than any other player these days. But there are a lot of players on tour who aren't doing that, and that's why he's a legend.
By the way, that metaphor you used just brought back a lot of bad memories as a kid, because I could never get my jeans over my sneakers. I never could, Gio.
And I got to tell you, Gary, I use that metaphor with golfers, and it makes a lot of sense. So it becomes the question, well, how do I not try so hard? And that's where things get tricky in this game. Right? We always say, we could say, like, free it up. You could say, be fearless. But getting a player to actually not try too hard, it's a tough thing to do. And like I said, I think Graham Dillette, it's going to be interesting because I can predict this year he will be in that situation again. And he's got a recurring script sort of underlying in his brain that's getting him just a little bit off on Sundays. Now, the beautiful thing, as Tiger said, it's doable. You just got to refuse to give in to the fear. Once you refuse and you turn that corner, it's absolutely doable. It's just a matter of whether Graham Dillette can do it. I think he can. He's a wonderful guy. He's not beating himself up, which is good, taking all the right lessons. So that's what we'll keep an eye on for the rest of the year.
Gio, as always, great thoughts. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, you listen to that, and he always provokes thought. He makes you think about what they might be thinking, or certainly what he had to say. What fear? Did you ever feel fear?
He reminded me, I had a light bulb moment in college, and there was a tournament, and Jim Colbert, the tour player, came to speak, and he said, everyone in here probably has the ability to be a tour player, to win on tour. The fear of success is what's going to stop almost all of you. And I remember
more so
thinking,
than failure.
More so than failure. It is getting there. I've worked for this my whole life. Now here I step up on the range, and Adam Scott and DJ and Rory are next to me. For me, it was Fred Couples and Greg Norman were next to me. And was I going to buckle next to these
This morning in Studio A, though, our equipment expert, Matt Adams, has more on the ball the Spaniard had in play and an inside look at the gear you've likely never seen before.
Yes, what I wanted to talk to you about today was golf ball technology and how the layers inside of a golf ball actually work against each other, and the combination of that makes them a symphony of performance where you get the performance that you would want, say, at a tour level or at a very high level. And why wouldn't you want your golf ball to perform at a very high level? Let's take a look at these. These are TaylorMade's new TP5 and TP5X golf balls. And I'm going to take you inside the hood. This is the TP5X. This is the TP5 inside of the golf ball. When was the last time that you actually saw the inside of a golf ball? And then from there, I'm going to explain to you what these different layers do and how they work for maximum performance. Okay, let me grab this one just so you can see. The first thing that they have here is what they call a tri-fast core. That means that, see this big group of rubber here? This is the softest part of the golf ball, and what that's there for is that as you compress into the golf ball with, say, a driver, this is going to compress, and then there's 3 other inner core layers, and as you go out from the center of the golf ball, they get harder and harder. The reason that they are doing that is that, first of all, think of physics. When you compress a piece of rubber, when you compress a golf ball, and the very violent interaction between this ball and your club. It wants to rocket back to form. If you were allowing it to rocket back at different speeds, that's how you're going to pick up velocity, and that's the reason why TaylorMade put multiple layers together with a progressive core from softer to harder as it moves out. Now, when you get to the farthest point out, the cover of the golf ball, this too has a dual spin cover on it. I'll show you the TP5 on this one. And it's made up of two parts. First of all, this outer core is urethane. That's very soft. Now, urethane is the reason why it's so soft, the reason why it's made the way that it does is so that you want your high lofted clubs to spin around the greens. Why do you want them to spin? So you can have your control. But you don't want them to spin off the, say, for example, your driver or your long irons, or even your 3-wood or your hybrid for that matter, for the most part. So what happens is, again, picturing the rubber that we talked about before, will compress on those longer clubs, but not spin. This urethane has behind it, that's where the dual cover core comes from, and you can see it right there. That's the dual cover. That is a harder inner core. The reason why that's there is so that as your club comes into contact with the golf ball, the harder core will push the urethane cover into the grooves. You see how they work against each other and at the same time work with each other in a symphony of technology, so that when you have this ball around the green, it has a little bit more spin. As to these two golf balls, the TP5 is a little bit softer. The TP5X is a little bit longer. This one has a little bit more feel. This one in spin. As a result, this one has a little bit less spin. So you have two different types of golf balls. This will have a high launch. This will have more of a mid launch, so that you can find a golf ball in the family of the TP5s. It works perfectly for your game, but now at least you understand the technology a little bit better of how it all happens.
Yes, we do. Again, that was a look at the golf ball that Sergio Garcia used for victory at Augusta National. Always great to hear from Matt.
Thanks for joining me on Golf Channel Academy. I'm your coach, Mark Polich. Today we're going to talk about consistency, the #1 thing people come to see me in my studio. Consistency is about centerness of contact, both for direction and distance. I've got a great drill that you can use at home, at the range. So I set up 2 tees, and I've got them set just slightly wider than the club head. We're going to address the club between these 2 tees. We're going to take a swing, and we want to be able to miss those 2 tees. Now, what I see happening in the studio is people will hit that inside tee. And if you hit the inside tee, you're likely to hit the ball off the toe. It's going to be off center. It's going to be short. If you do that, the solution for that is on the way down, your arms need to be a little farther away from you, and that will help you find the center. On the other hand, there are people that will take the swing and they will hit that outside tee. And the outside tee means we'll hit this shot where we hit it on this part of the club. It's going to become a hosel rocket. That's no good either. So the solution for that is on the way down, we need our arms to come a little closer to our body. So in order to find the center, we're going to, again, now put a ball down here. We're going to try to put it together and find the center of the club face. And if we hit a shot like that and you find the center, more consistent distance and direction, you're going to have more fun on the golf course.
Basic flop shot. You got to go over a bunker, stop it next to a pin, not much green to work with. That puts fear in most golfers' lives. Okay? What happens basically, the biggest mistake, you squeeze too hard, and as you go to hit the shot, the average guy thinks he's got to go backwards to get the ball up in the air. This shot should never have any change of direction up or down, so as soon as you go backwards, you're in trouble. You're going to change the bottom of the swing. Easy couple of fixes for this, but the bottom line is you've got to learn to trust the club. Loft is your friend. You don't need to do a whole lot of stuff, but use the loft of the wedge. When you get to hit this shot, take the tension out. Basically, just stand centered. Don't do anything. Let your arms swing and let the loft do the work. No changing. If you can trust what you're doing, you're going to get over the bunker and you can hit a good shot every time. Trust it.
One of the things Crenshaw said that really resonated with me was when you're trying to hit long putts, stand taller. You know, when we get into the hole, it's easy to get down. But Ben certainly thought with long putts, stand taller. And I like that. I think you get a better view of the distance. So if you stand sort of full height there, well, not quite full height, you've obviously got to have some posture. But if you're standing taller, it's definitely a bit easier to see the distance, to see the stroke, to see all that. Now, he had some other points that are equally as important, so if you'd like to set up to it.
Okay.
Another thing for the long putts was, it's okay to move your lower body. Have a practice thing for me. Ordinarily, from about 15 feet in, stand a bit taller.
So stand a little taller, there we go.
Let the lower body move a little bit, not an awful lot, but don't lock it steady. You need a bit of motion. This would be, this is probably 60 feet.
Just a little bit of motion through the ball.
Just a little bit of motion. So let's hit one there, allowing the lower body to move. So we're standing taller. We're going to allow the lower body to move.
And a little bit of motion through it.
Yeah, very nice. That was nicely done.
Get up there.
Very good. There's two other points that I think are key. There's two other sort of violations that people would have using a putter from about this range, or even if it was a long putt on the green. Typically, the club golfer, the weekend warrior, a he or a she, they don't take enough backswing when they're putting. Now, one of Ben's great quotes was, in putting, he said, I feel as if once I've set the putter in motion, it's as if it swings itself. I love that quote. Once I've set the putter in motion, it's as if it swings itself. Now, what that meant was, or what that demonstrated to me was, he took enough backswing, a little bit of body movement, enough backswing that he didn't have to
jab at
it on the way down.
Right.
So generally, I'm asking people to take more backswing with a putt of this length. You're pretty good, but just see if you can give me a little bit more backswing. Ben Crenshaw, that was really good.
A little more backswing
Once I've set it in motion, have you. Superb putt there.
That would work.
Once I've set it in motion, it's as if it swings itself. And you can see when you do that, it brings me to what I would call the fourth part of it. If I'm going to set it in motion, I actually do it fairly quickly. I don't take it back slowly,
Right, just
and then
let it
try
go
and
in
add on
motion.
the way down. No, that would be disastrous. I actually almost sling it back. So once I've set it in motion, the point being that you need a little bit of pace to your putting stroke.
So Martin, I know that Jack Nicklaus would have something to say about this putt here.
Well, yes, he would. Jack Nicklaus. So this is one of 3 Nicklaus golf courses.
Steve Nicklaus's, right?
This is Steve Nicklaus's golf course. Jack is currently working, redesigning the Legend golf course here. It's going to be fantastic. It'll be open.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to that. And I know he's doing a great job with it. But Jack would say the best tip he ever got came from Arnold Palmer, and that tip was use a putter from off the green whenever you possibly can. He got that in 1962.
Whenever you can.
And to this day, Jack Nicklaus would tell you that's the best tip he ever had. So just to recap there, just set up to the ball. A la Ben Crenshaw, let's stand a little bit taller. And I don't mean just Blair, I mean all of you at home, if you would be. Stand a little bit taller. Give yourself permission to let the legs move a tiny bit.
A little bit of movement
there. And take enough backswing with a bit of pace to the backswing. Sort of Blair O'Neill. Very, very,
Get in there.
Oh, yes.
Get in there.
Well, that would do it,
Gave it a
wouldn't
chance.
I mean, that was very, very well done. So great thoughts there from Ben Crenshaw, and one rather nice one from Jack Nicklaus.
There's a big tuft of grass just on the other side, so you may try and hit this a little more toward the toe of the club than usual.
Oh, is it in? Yes, it is! Very impressive. It's as animated as we've seen him in a long time.
Looking like a winter wonderland on the green carpets and fairways of Greyhawk Golf Club. Well, look at this scene at 18. This is Mark O'Meara and Phil Mickelson trying to get in their round. They're going to putt through this stuff. Mickelson, this is for birdie, folks. He's chipping. He is chipping.
Oh, my goodness! You gotta be kidding me! So he takes out the wedge and chips in for 3 through the hail at 18.
Most explosive golfer here this week. Phil Mickelson, second shot. Went out on the front side yesterday and shot 29, and it could have been lower with shots like this. How about that? Mickelson with an eagle here on the par 4-7.
You don't want to catch a jumper here, and you could easily if you get a little grass between the club face. Looks to be pretty clean from our camera shot.
Possibly the biggest shot of his career right here.
Certainly a good swing.
Slightly left of the hole. Good looking.
Whoa! That putt to win the golf tournament. The 20-year-old amateur, Phil Mickelson.
It's in the hole all the way. Never even a question about it.
20-year-old out of Arizona State, Phil Mickelson, the first amateur in 5 years to win a professional tournament.
Phil, after 78 yesterday, he's fought his way back today. He's 3 under on today's round.
Look at this little bounce here. How about a 1? How about a 1? That's a great feeling.
He still has to think he has to make 4 to win. Here it comes. The guys might go in. Look at this.
As good as it gets.
Mickelson, a par does it. It's that simple.
Only fitting. Only fitting.
He has a window.
Oh.
He's got a gap. 177, John.
Feel the thrill. Here we go. Better not hit a bad one. I think he might have pulled it off.
Didn't touch a thing. Because it's not cutting, though. It's at the very right side of the green.
How about that?
What a shot.
I didn't want to tell you about the gap I had. You know, I didn't want to tell you.
Another chapter in Mickelson's daring life of golf.
Got 145 yards, but I can't imagine at this point Phil playing back.
Gone with probably 64 or 60 degree, try to hoist it over. Thought I heard a little leaf touch.
Oh my goodness!
Incredible.
Can you believe this? He's got it 8 feet. Pete Costas, where were you? Couldn't you see that gap?
There was no gap there. He created that gap. Wow, what a shot.
9 feet 1 inch.
A fantastic finish. Mickelson, the champion.
Here are your top 5 LPGA Tour shots of the week.
And then at 12, Hyo-Joo Kim. This is one of the longest putts we've seen this week.
And a putt that you really do have to use your imagination on. Massive swing to the right, downhill, judging that so perfectly.
In-Ji Chung. He's hit a huge drive at 11, just 124 at the hole.
Pitching wedge. He missed the green on 8 and 10 with the same club. This one's not missing the green mark.
Nope. In fact, how about In-Ji Chung? There you go. That'll lower your score pretty quickly.
Whoa, Na-Yeon Choi. This is somewhat of a trick shot. Third shot. Risky play, this one, Karen.
Yeah, left-handed. Nobody is very comfortable if they're right-handed player, but wow.
Wow.
That was so impressive.
That is spectacular.
Now Mel Reed.
Good looking shot.
And it goes. Mel Reed holds out for eagle. And Julie Inkster is in the field this week, actually rooming with Serena Pillow, sharing a house.
They are the guest of.
Yes, it did. That was straight in. Slam dunk. Christy Kerr in a bit of trouble off the tee here. He's going to get up. Oh, it is. It could go in. Oh, dynamite from
Holy
Christy
cow.
Kerr.
Holy cow, par 4, just under 400 yards. Is a big slope from left to right. There's a tendency to try to get the ball in the left side of the fairway. She overcooked it, and it turned out well.
MJ Herr on the tee at 12, the par 3.
Really consistent player, hits the ball pretty well.
And that is perfect.
Wow.
Ayako Uehara, 4th year on the LPGA Tour, the veteran from Japan. This earlier today at 11, Jude.
158 yards, the most difficult hole location on the green.
Maybe not for her. The ace to get it to 5 under. She started at 10, so that was just her second hole of the day. Nice way to get it going. So we had an ace already. You weren't with us. MJ Herr on the tee at the par 3/8. Can't happen again this early in the day.
High shot, short shot.
Or maybe it can. Magic again on the par 3s here at Curtis Greens. High fives all around for MJ Herr.
210 yards to the front on this par 4, and watch what Zhang comes up with.
Yeah, different tee box today. 232 yards to the hole. Basically, it is a really tough U.S. Open par 3.
Boom. That is an ace on the par 4.
So the M system for teaching, you know, here's what a teacher is. First of all, what are you? Are you an educator? Are you a teacher? Are you a coach? I mean, that's what we've got to start with first. What are you trying to do here? So there's a lot of people out there. This whole industry is flooded now with a lot of people that are educators. What they do is they just give out a lot of information. You're seeing it with all of the biomechanics and the numbers and the statistics. Okay, those people are educators. They're giving you a lot of numbers. Are their numbers correct? Yeah, sure they are. Are they relevant, and when are they relevant? So that's what we've got to sort through that. So do you want to be an educator? Do you want to be a teacher? Which a teacher is somebody who starts to show someone how to learn something, okay? Then there's a coach, someone who teaches somebody how to take what they have and turn it into a product or be able to perform a job, to be successful in life. So they call them life coaches. Well, you want to end up being a golf coach. Obviously you need to know about the numbers. You obviously need to know some of the science. However, you don't want to think that because you sound really technical or you know numbers, somehow that makes you a good coach. There's a lot of great educators out there that are terrible coaches. They don't really get people much better, but they know a lot. So the first thing is deciding where you want to go, and we got to balance those things out. So you have to start to learn at least a little bit about multiple different areas. What's the game about? What are we trying to do when we play the game? What's necessary to playing the game? Physically, how do people deal with who they are physically? We're all different. We all are made differently. We've got different tendencies. So you need to know a little bit about the physical side of people. How do you determine if somebody makes a certain amount of rotation or not, or what fits them? Then you have to know a little bit about the physics, because everything we do on this planet is driven by these forces and utilizes those forces. So you need to know a little bit about all those areas. Now here's where I made a mistake coming up. Each one of those areas, as I started to understand more and more about it, that became the area to hang out in. I see what's happening now with golf, all this information about muscle firing patterns, the biomechanics of it. I got so involved in that became the way to teach. Well, here's the deal with that. Science is the study of what's happening. It's not necessarily the way to do it. I won't necessarily disagree with the numbers and the force plates and all things they're coming up with, but just because they identify what's happening doesn't mean that that's the way you're going to do it and make those numbers show up. Most of those numbers are effects, they are not causes. So as we start to go through this, it's starting to understand cause and effect. Learning to teach someone or help somebody in this game, you have to first understand the process. It's about concepts and skill developments. If you want to really help somebody to ascertain where are they in this process of learning, it's really easy in other areas. In math, 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 5 plus 5 is 11. Whoa, time out. We're off. If you go on, you're gonna break down, because it's not gonna work, because something's wrong with your concepts, something's wrong with the skills. The same with basketball, baseball, a lot of these sports, either the speed of the ball coming at you or the severity of the sport force you to a pace you understand. So you have to get control of certain things to go on to another level, or you stagnate. So part of this process is understanding what those things are. What is the process, if there is one? How do you guide someone through it and decide where they're at? Now, the other part of this is you're not just teaching somebody or coaching them or educating them on how to hit a golf ball. You do become a life coach, because golf swings and the game of golf has a lot of crossovers to life, and how people deal with life sometimes affects their golf. So from my perspective, working with tour players or very good players, amateurs, and that, their relationships with their families, their relationships with their significant other, what they feel about themselves plays in big time into how well they play the game, because it's managing all those emotions, which becomes another issue. Now we have emotions. What emotions are we dealing with? How do we term those emotions? What really are they? How does your brain react to different stimulus when you're on the course? Is it a bad thing or a good thing? You might think that what you're feeling is bad and try to get away from it, when in reality it's really good, you just don't know how to channel it. So this whole deal is going to be about how do we develop not just a swing, but a game and a way to deal with the game. That's what this whole process is about. It's not just about, here's how you put your hands on the club, here's where you stand, and this is how you swing. That's one very small part of playing the game. So this whole process can be a lot of fun, and you start to learn a lot about the people you're with, and you even learn a lot about yourself.
you're pushing the ball severely to the right. Likely is the club face is open, but it's getting open because the direction of your swing is actually getting too far out to the right, which is effectively opening your club face. So we're going to do two things to remedy this big push. We're going to move the ball up in the stance at the bottom of the arc, so the club face is at its squarest point. And then we're also going to make sure the direction of the swing is a lot more down the target line, so that you've got the path straighter, effectively getting the face squarer. Now, really simple here. We're going to set up with the ball kind of opposite the left shoulder. That means it's at the bottom of the arc where the face is its squarest. Then we're going to have the sensation that the club head is traveling more down the line versus excessively out to the right, losing our posture, pushing the ball severely. So here we are, set up very easily. Look at your target, your ball's up nice in your stance, and it's just a question of swinging down the line. And there you saw a very square club face. The club's at the bottom of the arc, the push is gone, and the ball is going straight down the target line.
These are ones that really can get folks at home a little nervous about their possibility to get up and down. So talk to us about this shot.
You know, I mean, you're out here practicing your golf and your chip shots and your putts and your drives. And then when you come down to the wire, when things become more important, you just got to trust your instincts and your practicing that you've been doing over the years. That day, I had somewhat of a difficult lie where the ball was a little bit behind my feet. My feet were a little ahead of the ball. And I just didn't want to give myself too much time to think over the shot. So all I did was I took my 2 practice swings and made sure that I did a little acceleration through the ball. I'm doing 3 now, and then get over the ball. As soon as you get back, make sure you go ahead and hit it. And trust your instincts and trust your flow, and don't try and overthink it when you get here. So in practice, yes, I will think of, since I have a downhill lie, I would like to lean my weight a little bit to the left so that I can hit the ball with a little more descending blow, rather than to try and come in too low and hit behind the ball possibly at this angle that I had. I like to get my weight in the same angle as the slope so that I do have a little easier way to hit it on a descending blow. Over the last few years, I've worked a lot on my chipping, and I think the best way to chip is to try and get the hand more connected to the shaft rather than in the fingers. This way the club doesn't get stuck behind you.
One more time?
Yep.
It's a tough one. So if players practice, they get the technique right, they can come on out here and trust it, then like you just did 2 quick practice swings and then they go. Don't overthink it.
Well, whether you've got a putt to break 80 or a putt to break 70 or a putt to break 40, just trust your instincts and let it go.
So I want to introduce you to a couple of putting games that are great for your juniors to get them into the game. These are things actually you can do as well, but the juniors get into this, and they're really, really fun games to keep them interested and working on their putting, improving their game. So this is a game that we're calling volley, and what we've got is Mia and we've got Reagan, both from the first tee of Central Florida. And the way this game is played is each player putts to the hole, and they putt until there's a make. Once there's a make, they would switch, and you would play a game to 3 or to 5, depending on ability level and also the difficulty of the putt. We have, okay, well done, Mia. So it's 1-0, so then you would switch, and now they would hit different putts. This is a great game, again, to teach you how to read greens. It's going to let the juniors get involved in understanding pace. It's going to get them to understand all the keys to being a successful putter, and we're adding some competition. A wonderful game. We call it volley. Now, we want to introduce you to another game. This game is called tic-tac-toe, and it takes a little while to set it up. You're just going to set up a grid like this. Very, very simple. And I want to introduce you to Zane and Harrison, also from the first tee of Central Florida. Now, Harrison, what are you going to be, X's or O's?
X's.
Okay, so he's going to be X, and what you would do is you play just tic-tac-toe, just the same way. So Harrison's going to hit a putt here, and he's going to putt his ball. So we have an X in this grid right here. Now, Zane's turn. Now we get some strategy. And the way this is set up when we first start out, Harrison, why don't you back out and let Zane hit a putt? Perfect. So what we've got is we've got this set up. It's a 9-foot grid, so 3, 6, and 9 feet. We're going way up top. Stay in. Oh, so no zeros on the board. So now it's Harrison's turn again. Now remember, he's got his X right here, so he can do one of two things here, and it creates some strategy. So he goes into this middle box, so we have 2 X's. All right, Zane, your turn. Harrison, why don't you grab your ball? Harrison, right here, right here. Here you go. So we have 2 X's right here. Now what's Zane going to do? Is he going to try to block over in that middle? You're going to go to the middle square? So there's some strategy right here. And what this is teaching, obviously, is control of speed. And we're also working on a little bit of aim. Okay, so he's gone up here. So now we have the O up here. Good. Now, what's happening? This is played exactly like you're playing tic-tac-toe. It's going to create some strategy for the kids. It's going to create some aim. They've got to make sure they control where they're aiming, and also they're controlling their pace. And we start out here with just these little putts here, and then eventually you can move it back to where they're a little bit longer. So they're really getting more and more, and it's a great way to keep them involved in the game, interested in what's happening with the speed and also the accuracy of the putt. 2 great games to get your juniors involved and participating in the game of golf.
Lisa Cornwell spoke with LPGA rules official Sue Witters after the final round.
So obviously it's part of the job, but how difficult was it for you to go out there and tell Lexi the news?
Probably one of the most hardest things I've ever done. I mean, you hate to see a championship, something happen anytime, but especially in a championship, and the excitement that was building, and it was really difficult.
Given everything that's happened and the news that she had to take, what was her response? How did you see her?
She was a class act. I mean, I honestly think she thought we were joking, and we weren't. And, you know, she took it as good as you can take it. It was such a bitter pill, and she was really good about it.
Walk us through the process of how this came about, how you all found out about this.
We got an email. Last group was on 9, and we went to TV and took a look at it and had a couple officials look at it and realized that the ball didn't get back in the right place, and we wanted to let Lexi know and the other fellow competitors know, so everybody knew the status of the championship at that point as soon as possible.
I would guess that this happens quite often. People email you guys, you call these guys. How do you determine if it's a reliable, credible source?
Well, we check out everything that comes in because you just never know. And a lot of times they turn out to be nothing or inconclusive. The majority of times they are, and every once in a while you get one that isn't.
Obviously, this tournament abides by the rules of golf. There is a rules committee, though. Is there anything that the rules committee could have done to have avoided this 4-shot penalty?
No, I mean, it was pretty clear on TV, and it's not like we used high definition to see it. Trust me, if we could have, it's not something you enjoy doing. It's probably the hardest part of our job.
From a rules standpoint and the fact that there are changes coming to the rules, is this something that you think that could possibly, look, I know it's complicated, but could be avoided in the future?
I think it's something that needs to be addressed, quite honestly. You know, if this call had come in tomorrow after the championship had closed, it would have been over. There was nothing we could have done, but because it came in before the championship closed, I think it's something probably needs to be addressed, yes.
And if it affects the outcome of the championship, obviously it affects you all. What will the response be? Because there is a public outcry right now from both the viewers and the players.
I'm sure, but I was just doing my job. And, you know, we got a call. We took a look at it. What we saw, there was 4 of us looking at it. The ball was not put back in the right place. I'm 100% sure it was not intentional. I mean, Lexi's a gold standard player. I mean, she wouldn't do it intentionally. It was late in the day. A lot of golf had been played. And I would have been negligent if I hadn't gone to look at it or done what we unfortunately had to do.
Now I want to get to something that most people don't do. I wish they would. All the people who take lessons from me at IBIS have to do some of this at some point. I want you to check your pivot properly. I want you to check what your body does properly. Now there's no easy way to do that, but this is about as easy as it gets. I've got 2 PVC pipes to make a point. I want to make it very visual. One's going to go across my hips about there. I think I've got the bungee cords mixed up there. We'll put that one on there. That's the hip one. One's going to go across my hips. That's better. And one's going to go across my shoulders. Now, you won't know how valuable this is until you do it. And there's a number of things you can discover with this. This is one of those self-tests. There's a number of ways you can improve here. And I'm going to start with saying, well, can you take a little flexibility test first of all? We've got a pipe that we could call bottom. We've got a pipe we could call top. So we've got top and bottom. Now first test, can you move the bottom without moving the top? That's a mobility issue. A lot of people can't do that. I ask them to move the bottom without moving the top, and they say, how am I doing? I say, not very well actually. You want to see, can you move the bottom without the top? And if you can do that, can you move the top without moving the bottom? Because those are essential parts of the golf swing. The better the player, the easier that is, but please learn to do that. The pivot itself, well, you just turn back and you turn through, don't you, Martin? No, you don't. And you certainly don't do this. If we could just have an overhead here, please, Mr. Director. This would be an absolute recipe for disaster. I turn one way, and I turn the other way. Nothing very good's coming out of that, other than you'll have to keep watching School of Golf to get better. Big difference. The top in the backswing, the top turns well before the bottom. You can see that. In the backswing, the top turns before the bottom. Now, the reason I like using the PVC pipes, it's so easy to see. The top turns before the bottom, and it pulls the bottom around. Now, coming down, you want the bottom to at least begin to move before the top. Now, some people call that the X factor, and guess what? You can see why there. There is, well, I didn't mean the pun on the Y. You can see it's called the X factor because there is an X there. Jim McLean coined that many years ago. It's not the together factor. It's the X factor coming down. And as I keep coming through, the hips are turning away from the shoulders, and eventually the shoulders catch up and pass the hips. But there's one thing I also want you to look at. If we could go down the line camera, and this is a biggie, the top stick here, I turn back, the top turns, the bottom follows. The bottom leads, the top follows, but watch this, watch this, watch this. The bottom stick runs into, sorry, the top stick runs into the bottom stick. That is huge. It's called side bend. Don't do this. This is no good. The right side is too high, horrible, hideous, nasty. So the top turns, the bottom follows. The bottom leads, the top follows, but the top also tilts. It's that action there that's going to let me hit from down the plane or from the inside. So I feel compelled after that to actually go ahead and hit one. I think I've got myself caught up on my microphone there. Let me just try and hit one with that, putting that together. As I said, every golf swing gets viruses, and you want this to be sort of an antivirus sweep of your golf swing. So in my mind, I want to see those PVC pipes across the body. I want the top to turn going back. I want the bottom to turn going through. And I want the top pipe to bump into the bottom pipe on the way down. And that wasn't bad. It's about 10 feet right of target. So getting the pivot right is the engine. If the pivot is wrong, you're fighting an uphill battle.
You're hitting the ball solid off the tee, but potentially it's going just a little left of where you intend. Perhaps you're just pulling the ball slightly. You know, there's a very simple key to this swing, and the driver basically goes back and it goes up. Now, if we follow that path, then it's got to go down before it goes forward. My suspicion is that on your swing, you're going back and up, and then you're going forward. Now, face on, that puts us in front of the ball a little bit. But if we get back here and go this way, you can see from down the line, now my shoulders are starting to go to the left, and that's going to provide a really solid hit, but it's going to take the ball a little bit left of where you want. One of the keys I've heard from many players on the tours are get the hands below the belt and past the leg. That's a great key that they go with on the downswing. So as they get up to the top, down below the belt and past the leg. Try that the next time you're out and see if that pull doesn't straighten out a little bit.
The reason you're slicing your wedges is mostly because of your setup. What happens is when the ball gets forward, your shoulders aim to the left, your hand gets weak. So when you swing back, you chop down, and to keep from hitting the ground too much, your elbow comes up. To fix this, we're going to move the ball back in your stance, which is going to level your shoulders. We're going to move your hands over, which is going to help us draw the ball. And then when our shoulders square up, this helps the club go back inside. Before, you were going outside. So to hit this shot, the ball's in the middle, the hands are over, the shoulders are square, the weight's left, and then I just go ahead and swing right down my shoulder line. As you can see, the ball came in there nicely right to left, set up to draw the ball, and you'll stop slicing your wedges.
There are three things you can do with your stance to help you hit it farther. It's not only these three things, but these things help enormously. Now, look, we know, science tells us for certain that we need to be hitting up at the ball to maximize the distance we can hit the golf ball. There's more to it than that. You've got to hit on the right spot on the face, but you've got to be hitting up. Now, when you're hitting up at the golf ball, it's very easy to actually be swinging to the left at the moment you're hitting up, the arc the club swings on. And so, one of the things that we now know for sure, they knew it a long time ago, but we now know for sure is, number one, with your stance, if you're going to try and hit it a long way and hit up, number one, pull your trail foot back from the line. I've got an alignment stick on the ground here, but watch this. Pull your trail foot back from the line some amount. I don't want you to go berserk. I'm not saying you can take it all the way down here to Main Street, but just pull your trail foot back from the line. Now, that does help you angle the swing a little bit to the right, which is great if you're hitting up at the ball. The swing direction is a bit to the right. So I'm going to try and lay a bit of club head on one here with the trail foot pulled back from the line a little bit. Here we go. Trail foot's pulled back from the line. Now that ball did not go to the right because the trail foot was pulled back. I left the face open a little bit trying to hit it hard. But number one, you would pull the trail foot back a little bit. Now number two, with regard to doing something with your stance, the stance being the very foundation of the swing. You know those things in Egypt, the pyramids? Did you ever notice they are much wider at the bottom than they are at the top? Why? For stability. Think what they'd be like if you built them upside down, and yet people try and drive the ball, what I would call as upside down pyramids. Don't do that. Get the stance fairly wide. We're referencing Tiger Woods a lot in this show. And you think back to a young Tiger, and golly, when he was working with Butch, he would get a pretty wide stance, and with good reason. So now I've got the trail foot back a little bit. I've got the stance widened now, wider than my shoulders by a good amount, you can see that. And that's going to help me turn a bit more. So that would be two of the three things I'm going to ask you to do. Let me see if I can put a bit of club head on this one. Definitely wider stance, trail foot pull back. I didn't get that one too well, but not to worry, I've got another one to go. Now, the last thing I would want you to do is probably what will fix me there. is to get my lead foot turned out a little bit. And this would be sort of the trifecta. Trail foot's back, stance is wider, lead foot's turned out a little bit. Now there's a couple of things there. When the lead foot is turned out a bit, one, it will somewhat restrict your hip turn going back, so you've got a bigger wind up. Two, it allows your hips to open up a little bit quicker coming down, so you might get a bit of clubhead speed extra from there. So those are the three. Trail foot back, stance is wider, lead foot flared out a little bit. Let's see what I've got now. Let's concentrate here, Martin, and see if I can really put a bit of clubhead on this one. And that one I certainly hit pretty hard.
I'm Martin Hall, you're watching School of Golf. Extra credit. Setup. Let's get that setup just right. As Jack Nicklaus once told me, there's no excuse for not having the setup of a world-class player. I agree with the Golden Bear on that one. Okay, 4 tips for the setup. Now, for each of these, I'm going to need a target line, so I've put a white stick on the ground, and I'm going to stand about parallel to that because I'm sort of hitting a relatively straight shot by intent here. Number one thought with the setup. Very important, very overlooked this one. The angle of your head, your eye line we call it, that has a huge amount to do with your setup. If you set up with your head twisted or turned, and you can see here how my right eye's way inside the left and the eyes aren't level. Sometimes people set up this way, they get a funny look on the ball. Here's drill number one to get the setup right. Once you've got the set, once you feel you've set in, just stand up, look out towards the horizon. Almost all of us have sort of a self-leveling system here. Your eyes will be level to the horizon, and with those level eyes, just look right back down again. There's a very good chance for many of you that will be a new way to see the ball. Level eyes definitely help you hit it straighter. So that's number one. Number two, you need to get a sense of what I'd call the railway lines. Now the railway lines are the lines that run target line and through the shoulders and through the hips. Now, this to me is one that you should do. It's one that when people do it, they play better. It doesn't take a lot of effort, but it does take a bit. Here we go. 2 bungee cords, a couple of dowels. Just strap those across your body. One's going to go through your hips, one's going to go through your shoulders, and I want you to check, or perhaps have a friend check, that when you set up, the line that would run through your shoulders and through your hips, if it isn't absolutely parallel to your target line, well, by golly, it should be very, very close. Now, the top one's going to be tilted, but the line through the dowels should be parallel to your target line. Don't get the hips going one way and the shoulders going another way. That's a disaster. I think you can see in this monitor here, those 2 dowels are about parallel to my target line. Again, no excuse for not getting the setup to be correct. Takes a bit of practice, but you'll get a feel there of what is square. Okay, third setup tip. When you set up, engage your abs. Get those abs engaged, just as if you were going to do a sit-up crunch. You know, the feeling should be just as if you were going to do a sit-up and you'd engage your abs in a sit-up. Well, when you have that sort of bend forwards, you should know your abs are engaged. It should be, as Elkington told me one time, someone could come and take a punch in your tummy and you wouldn't flinch one bit. That'll get rid of that wretched ass posture. And finally, and this is a biggie, finally, you must make sure that club face is aimed about where you want the ball to start. Easy to say, not so easy to do, unless of course you have the cure-all 2x4, the School of Golf fixes just about everything 2x4. You can see I've put a bit of tape on this one, and I've got that at right angles to the edge of the 2x4. This is one I learnt many years ago from Bob Tosky and Jim Flick. If you set up with a line on a 2x4 and it's a right angle line, and you set up and you make sure the leading edge of that golf club is at a right angle line, you can be very sure you're aimed. So if you could get your shoulders in the right position, if you can get your abs engaged, if you can get the setup right, your eye line right, you've got every chance of hitting some very, very straight golf shots. Improve your setup, I promise you'll improve your score.
Hi, I'm Michael Breed, host of the Golf Fix. Got an email question here from Art Pohenzi in Cave Creek, Arizona. Help. I just can't get any height on my drives. My driver has 10.5 degrees of loft. What am I doing wrong in my swing? And is the driver swing different from hitting my irons? When I'm hitting my driver right, I can't hit my irons and vice versa. Please help. Thank you. All right, Art. It's not any different. It's the same. It's just your different distances from the golf ball. And what we need to do is understand the setup position first. It's very simple. When you're reaching to go get to that ball, you put the ball up forward in your stance, but as you reach to go get it, your shoulders get open and they get level. And when they get level, what happens is that you drive the club down into the ground there, which creates a de-lofting of the face and the ball flights out low. What we want to do is we want to set up with the right shoulder lower than the left, and it's that way for every single club. Because my right hand, for the right-handed player, is lower than my left. So my right shoulder should be lower. So when you get set up with that driver, what I want you to do is I want you to feel like you've got some tilt on your shoulders going in an upward direction. And that's going to be the same for a 6-iron or a wedge. It's the exact same. The only difference is that when we set up for a wedge, because it's a smaller club, we're going to have a little bit more bend. So as we stand a little taller, that shoulder's going to get up in the air a little bit more. When we bend over a little bit more, they're going to get a little bit more level, but the shoulder is still, the right shoulder or trail shoulder is still lower. So what you're going to do is you're going to get set up like this in what we call a reverse K position, just like that. And what's going to happen is that's going to let the club move along the ground, and that's going to flight that ball up into the air. All right?